Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at one of those lucrative stakes races at Kentucky Downs this Saturday. Race 7 is the Grade 3 Mint Millions, going the 1 mile distance for the older horses. $2.5 million, the purse for this race, and a large competitive field signed on that you want to dive into when you do your handicapping. And if you're doing some Kentucky Downs handicapping, make sure to check out our Kentucky Downs packages. Have this going on since the start of the meet. You can get the 7 cards for just $20. Check out our Kentucky Downs package at shop.drf.com. Mike, 13 entered for this Mint Millions Invitational, and I'll be interested to see where the money goes in here. The horse that's pegged as the lukewarm morning line favorite is the number 13 Loginos, who's wheeling back on very short rest after having just won the Tapit Stakes a little over a week ago. He's the slight morning line favorite at 4-1, but I can see some others taking some support in here.
It's kind of a more wide open race. I think that's why you have a 4-1 morning line favorite. There's a lot going on here. Laganos likes this turf course. I know it's wheeling back on short rest. This horse was awful impressive winning that race here last week, and this is his distance, David. I think more than anything else, Laganos, I don't really think he wants to go much further than a mile. This is a great distance for him, and he's in good form.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if he winds up the favorite or maybe the number 7 Brilliant Birdie, a horse who did finish ahead of Loginos 3 times in a row on the way into this race. So we'll see how the bettors decide to assess those 2 runners and some others. And to get a sense of where those horses could be placed in the early stages of this race, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Mint Millions. And there is plenty of speed in here, Mike. I mean, obviously, the number 1 Goliad, he's kind of got one way to go, and that's to the front end. He actually is the defending champion of this race, winning in gate-to-wire fashion. Epic Ride has plenty of natural speed, and we got one European runner in this race coming in for his first start in the U.S., the number 9 Point Linus, who might also be part of the pace.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I mean, listen, Goliad, he's just sort of one-way speed. He won twice here last year. He likes this turf course, gets over it really well. He's got a lot of speed, and he's got the rail. He'll go. I thought he would make the lead in this race, David. Epic Ride will be forward in this race, and you're right to point out Point Linus, the 9. We'll see if he's fast enough, but he is, or at least was, a free running horse overseas.
We'll talk more about the number 9 Point Linus and his prior performances in just a little bit, but let's start our conversation of the contenders with the number 1 Goliad, another one of those potential pace players in the race. And Mike, he's actually the defending champion of this race, having won it last year in gate-to-wire fashion. We'll take a look at the replay of that race. And I would say that the Mint Millions field he was beating back in 2024, probably not quite as strong as the group that he's lining up against here, but he was in top form when he took this race down last year, winning a couple of races in the span of just less than a week at Kentucky Downs back in the 2024 season. I think the big question with Goliad coming into this race is just what kind of form is he in now as an 8-year-old?
Yeah, I'd be worried about that for sure. I always have to respect the fact that this horse has already run here and he's run 2 big races here, because a lot of horses just won't show up over this turf course. He will. And so we'll see if he can get back into form. You're right. I don't know that when he won it last year, there were some good names in that field, but it just felt like maybe they weren't in good form at that time. So I'm not sure how strong that race actually was. I respect him, David, just because he has speed and he's run well here. But outside of his 2 races at Kentucky Downs, I don't really like any of his races, and I'm not going to bet him in this spot.
We should mention, as we talk about a lot of these Kentucky Downs races on Saturday, when we watched that Mint Millions replay last year, they took the rails down to 0 feet, which they often do this weekend. And sometimes when they do that, speed can really carry along an inside path. I think that was the case for Goliad last year. We'll see if that's the case again this year in 2025. The number 2 Major Dude, he's another one who could get a nice rail trip sitting in behind the speed here, Mike. And he's got good tactical speed. They actually sent him to the front last time in the United Nations, where he got run down to the end, going a distance that probably is a little bit too far for him, but at least it was returned to form for a horse who had put in some slightly disappointing efforts through the spring and early summertime. He really didn't have an excuse in the poker 2 back when beaten by Donic Momentum, getting a pretty good trip in that race. And I think the mile works for this horse, Mike. He could have a good trip coming to him. I just wonder if he's quite as good now as he's been in the past.
I agree with all those things. I mean, outside of the Appleton earlier this year, where he just had a brutal trip and didn't get the job done, all of his other races, I just don't see excuses for him. He ran fine in those races and wasn't good enough. And it's not like this is an easy spot. I just sort of feel like, David, he is what he is on paper. His good race, I guess, will give him some kind of a chance in here. And he's got the right running style. I also like him dropping back in distance for this.
The number 3, Cairo, is a European import for this race. Actually, already got a start in the US, though, last time out in the Arlington Million, where he was going the mile and a quarter distance. That might be stretching him a little bit, Mike. And I think we saw that at the very end of that race, where he tried to make a wide move, flattened out a little bit. That race was won from off the pace by Fort Washington in a bit of an upset. And I thought Cairo ran fine. He's a horse who does typically hold his own against some pretty tough competition. The problem is he hasn't won a race in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that he's, been around it in some pretty tough spots along the way. I mean, you got to take out the Dubai races where there's, no pari-mutuel handle showing, but he's got 3-mile races in group company over the last year or so, and he was over 100-1 in every one of those races. I mean, he outran his odds a couple of times, but I'm not sure, exactly what all that means. I didn't think he ran well at all in the Arlington Million, but maybe people have an excuse for that performance, and maybe dropping back to a mile will help him. I just wasn't convinced, David, that he was good enough. I think this is a good field, and I wasn't convinced he was good enough to beat these horses.
Number 4, Air Recruit, is an interesting horse just because he's so lightly raced coming in here, and he has plenty of upside as a horse just making the 7th start of his career. I do think he showed some talent during his 2-year-old season. I know the speed figures don't look that fast, but he was a visually impressive winner of that Laurel Futurity before setting a pace that kind of came apart in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Was off for a long time, won his return at Colonial, and then ran this race at Monmouth Park last time, the Oceanport, where he got a pretty good trip. He was sitting just outside of a speed horse. Those two dominated on the front end, but I like the way he finds another gear in the final 8th of a mile to run this horse down in the late stages. It should be noted the runner-up, There Are No Words, did come back to finish a good second in another stakes last week behind Cugino, who is a pretty talented graded stakes quality horse. And Mike, Air Recruit just feels like a horse that might still have some upside third off the layup. And Arnaud Delacour is not the kind of trainer that just takes random shots in graded stakes like this. When he runs horses in major races, they typically have a chance.
Yeah, those are all the things to like about him. We'll see if he's good enough. This is a pretty big test for this horse. If I'm being honest, David, I like you. I liked him as a 2-year-old. I wanted to be more impressed with his win in the Oceanport last time. And I get that There Are No Words was on the lead that day, and he's actually in good form right now. But I wouldn't like him in this race, that's for sure. I don't know. I wanted to be more impressed with Air Recruit's win last time, but I recognize that all the other things that you've said about him are true.
The number 5, Spirit of St. Louis, is a horse who's got some of the best performances in here. If he can recreate them, he's probably going to find himself in the winner's circle in this mid-millions. The problem is he's coming off 2 pretty disappointing efforts in the Manhattan, where he was sent off as the favorite, could not reproduce his form at Churchill when he had won a grade 1 previously, and then came back in another grade 1 last time in the 4-star Dave and just didn't do a whole lot of running. It's not like he was that wide. He was 2 to 3 wide on the turns, just went backwards through the stretch. Mike, I have had the idea in the past that maybe this horse doesn't love Saratoga, even though he's run okay in some Saratoga races before, even competing against New York breds in past seasons. He would put forth disappointing efforts at short prices at Saratoga. So maybe that's not his favorite venue. And if that's true and he gets back to his prior form, he's a major player here. It's just a matter of whether or not you trust him to do it.
Yeah, you brought that up last time before the 4-star Dave preview we did about the Saratoga thing. I think you're onto something there. That could very well be true. And even if it is, I don't care. This horse, he's not going to be a great price in this race. So that, automatically kind of excludes me from wanting to use him. I don't really like any of his races this year, David. And I say that recognizing that he's won 2 grade 1 races this year. I don't know. I didn't really love the Turf Classic on Derby Day as a race overall. He got the job done there, but I wasn't blown away by it. His other wins at Gulfstream Park in a race where, first of all, it's easy for me not to believe anything that happens there. And then just a bunch of horses had trips behind him that day. I don't know. I don't like him that much, and he's not going to be enough of a price to get me interested.
Yeah, I wonder what price will be. There could be some fatigue with this horse with 2 bad performances in a row, but he does go out for some popular connections. The number 6, Swift Delivery, is a horse that's coming in off the best performance of his career, but that was on the synthetic course at Woodbine, Mike. And going through this horse's form, it does feel like he is generally a little bit more dangerous on the synth than he is on the turf. When you just isolate his turf races, he's just never put forth a performance that's supposed to make him competitive against this field.
Yeah, David, I respect that this horse is in really good form. I do think his last 2 starts are maybe the 2 best races he's ever run, different surface or not. But I also, as you pointed out, his turf races don't seem to be as good. He's a big price in here, but I thought he was hard to get to.
The number 7, Brilliant Birdie, I thought kind of was the horse to beat in this race because he's just been in excellent form lately. And I know he doesn't have any buyer speed figures that just jump off the page at you, but he is rock solid. He shows up every time, aside from that one performance off the layoff in the Muniz where he was off the board and there were some multiple no-shows in that race. He's just been very consistent ever since then. He loves the mile. And Mike, as I'm sure you'll point out, he runs well at Kentucky Downs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's certainly one thing that I noted when he won the Gun Runner here last year. I mean, he was awful good winning that race. So I don't feel like you have to worry about him handling this turf course, which you're going to have to worry about with some of the others in here. And ever since that race, even before that race, actually, I mean, this horse, he's really run nothing but good races on the turf. And I do think he's better this year at 4 than he was at 3. An easy and convincing win in the Wise Dan last time where they, got him rated back off the pace again. Yeah, I don't know if he got lost on the front end 2-back or not, but either way, he still ran really well in that race too. There's a lot to like about this horse. We'll see what kind of price he is.
The number 8, Steel Sunshine, is an intriguing horse in this race because he doesn't have a whole lot of turf experience, but he got back on the turf last time for the first time in a long time at Gulfstream Park, and we'll take a look at the replay of the stretch run of that race, and I thought he ran really well, Mike. He was beaten by a rival that he'll meet again here in Beach Gold. We'll get to him in just a little bit, but Steel Sunshine is that second horse highlighted here, and there was not a whole lot of pace going on ahead of him, and in paceless races at Gulfstream Park, it's not the easiest thing to do to close from the back of the pack, but he puts in a pretty strong rally to get within a neck of the winner at the end of this race. And going back through this horse's form, he hadn't run on turf since his career debut. I went back to watch that race. He got a ridiculous trip on that occasion, and he does have turf pedigree, so maybe he should have deserved a shot on the turf all along.
Yeah, maybe. Listen, if it was easy for them to stay on dirt with this horse, because he's a good dirt horse too. I mean, he won and was very competitive in some really good races along the way. So I understand why they stuck with it. But he did show that he can run his race on this surface last time. And Beach Gold, not only did he have a better trip than Steel Sunshine in that race, but he's in really good form right now. That to me, that race last time's legit. This horse is probably not going to be a short price in this race. I'm going to use him.
One minor negative is that he was entered in that Tappet Stakes won by Longinos and was a regulatory vet scratch. Now he's coming back just over a week later. The number 9, Point Lynacy, is the other European shipper in this race, Mike. And kind of interesting to watch this horse's form because you often watch the European replays and see jockeys like to hold the horses up and produce a finish. And you kind of assume that's how they're going to run when they come over here. But this horse, he is a one-way speed type, a true runoff in the early stages. He likes to open up on fields, and that's the best way he runs. Looked like they tried to mess with that style last time, and it didn't work out at all. I imagine that they're going to go back to front-running tactics here if he breaks.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's necessarily going to be a good thing for him, considering that we have Goliad towards the rail. And to me, there's just no way that Goliad's going to concede to this horse. Maybe Point Linus will outrun him early, but I don't think Goliad's just going to concede it to him. So we'll see. To me, he has actually run. So his effort 2 starts back in that group 2 was a giant performance. I mean, he opened up a huge lead on that field and just got run down in the very late stages. I don't know. I just don't see this trip working out for him, David, but he could be a pretty dangerous horse in here if he's fast enough to clear.
The number 10, St. Anthony, is kind of tough to make a case for in here, Mike. He's been around for a long time. To me, he's just rarely put forth performances that make him competitive at this level. I'm not sure he's in the best form right now.
Yeah, I don't like his recent form either. I'm with you on that. He's going to be another horse. He's going to be a really big price in this race. And it's not like he doesn't have back races that would give him some kind of a chance, but I thought this was a tough spot.
The number 11, Epic Ride, is another horse that could be involved in this pace, and he's drawn outside of those 2 other pace players, so that could produce a difficult trip for him, Mike, especially if you want to have rail position over this course. I just wonder how it's going to work out for Epic Ride. I do think he ran well when he tried a turf route for the first time in his last start, where he was pressing a pretty honest pace every step of the way, and Beach Gold, who beat him, got a perfect trip on that occasion. So I do like his last effort. I just wonder if the trip is going to work out here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he has been in 2. We should point out, even the turf debut 2 starts back, that was a really fast-paced sprint. So he's been involved in some fast-paced races, and he's actually acquitted himself pretty well. The surface is fine for him. I wonder about this level of competition, but he's another horse who's probably going to get overlooked in the wagering here.
The number 12, Beach Gold, is the horse that just defeated Epic Ride in that prep race at Ellis Park last time, and he could not have gotten a much better trip in that race, Mike. He sat towards the back of the pack. There was plenty of pace going on ahead of him, and Keith Asmussen made the risky decision to just stay on the rail, hope things opened up, and they did, as he just shot right on through the inside, saving all the ground. Don't know if he's going to get as fortunate a trip this time, but you have to say, this horse has really improved by leaps and bounds over his last several starts.
I like that about him. I like the way that he's progressing. It's in an odd way. If he hadn't gotten the trip that he got in a stakes race last time to win, I probably would have liked him more. But he was just a huge price in that race, and it just felt like he caught every break that he needed to catch to win that race. But listen, he beat Steel Sunshine 2 starts back. He showed that he had a different dimension to him last time too. Just sitting back, he was very comfortable, rating back off the pace. Whereas prior starts, he was right up close. I mean, I could easily make a case for this horse if I wanted to. And I do respect the form that he's in right now.
Rounding out the field on the far outside is the number 13 Logginos, but an outside post shouldn't bother him too much because he broke from the outside post in the Tappet when he won here just a few days ago in the early part of this meet. And we'll take a look at the stretch run of this race. He was a dominant winner of this race, Mike. You can see the rails are a little further out, so maybe the outside post was not as much of a detriment on this day as it could be if they take the rails down for this upcoming Saturday. But what you have to like about this horse is that he's been consistent, in good form, and he's run well at Kentucky Downs, not just once, but a couple times in the past.
He likes this turf course for sure. He absolutely smashed that field last time, and you could tell that he was going to beat them from a long way out. He's just a really good horse, David. To me, he's legit graded stakes kind of material. He does, to me, it's always been mostly about distance with him. I don't think he wants to go much further than a mile. This is a really good distance for him. He's got a handy running style, so a fast pace is not going to affect this horse. I think he's super dangerous right back.
Steve Asmussen brings him back on very short rest. I looked up a stat in DRF Formulator for Steve Asmussen. It's hard to find very small sample sizes for the Asmussen barn because he runs so many horses, but coming back in less than 10 days in stakes at Kentucky Downs over the past 5 years, he's 2 for 2. So that's a good sign for Logginos in this race. Let's go to picks for this Mint Millions. And Mike, I think we're going to land in slightly different spots here, though I've got a lot of respect for the horse that you put on top, Brilliant Birdie.
I think I just went with really logical horses here. I thought, I mean, Logginos, I really respect him, and I do think he's going to run well right back here. He was so impressive here last week, but I'm going to take Brilliant Birdie. As you pointed out, Brilliant Birdie sort of had Logginos' number recently, and I really think that he's beaten that horse fair and square along the way. Just think it makes a lot of sense in here, but I do want to wait and see what kind of price he is.
I'm intrigued by that angle of Spirit of St. Louis getting away from Saratoga. I'm definitely going to use him in this race if the price is fair. And I put the number 4 Air Recruit on top. He's obviously going to need a step forward, third off the layup to beat a field like this. But I sense a good trip coming for him from Joel Rosario, who tends to hug the rail at Kentucky Downs, especially when those inside rails come down. So we'll see if he can get the right trip and if it's enough for him to upset this field at a big price. 4, 5, 7, 13 for me and 7 to 13, 8, 1 for Mike in race 7 at Kentucky Downs on Saturday. The Mint Millions. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.